Hello, welcome to today's lesson. We're going to learn about cranial nerves. We have 12 cranial nerves, and what is important for you to know is that you have to know the cranial nerves according to their numerical order. That is crucial. So today I'll be giving you mnemonics and simple ways to remember how to name the cranial nerves. And also, I will be giving you a simpler way to remember if a cranial nerve is sensory, motor, or it has mixed function, which include both the sensory and the motor function. Let's get right into it. How do we remember the naming of the cranial nerves? We use this mnemonic. Only one of the two athletes felt very good, victorious, and healthy. This is supposed to be 12 because there's 12 cranial nerves. So, this is cranial nerve number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Only one of the two athletes felt very good, victorious, and healthy. So now we have to replace this with the correct names for the cranial nerves. But remember, it means the first letter of each word represents the first letter of a cranial nerve in this numerical order from 1 all the way to 12. Now, let's write down the full names of the cranial nerves. Olfactory, optic, oculomotor, trochlear, trigeminal, abducens, facial, vestibular, cochlear, glossal, glossopharyngeal, vagus, accessory, hypoglossal. These are the 12 cranial nerves: olfactory, optic, oculomotor, trochlear, trigeminal, abducens, facial, vestibulocochlear, glossopharyngeal, vagus, accessory, and hypoglossal. Now, we know how to name the cranial nerves in their numerical order. The next step is for us to learn how do we know if a cranial nerve has got sensory function, motor, or both, mixed function. There's a mnemonic that we use for that. Some say Mary, money, but my brother says big brains matter most. Some say Mary, money, but my brother says big brains matter most. If you look at in this mnemonic, there is 3 letters being represented: S, M, and B. So that means where you see S, it means that cranial nerve is the sensory nerve. Where you see M, that cranial nerve is a motor nerve. Where you see B, the cranial nerve is a mixed nerve. It stands for both. So it's a mixed nerve. It's got sensory and motor function. So let's write it properly. Okay, so it means olfactory is sensory, optic is sensory, motor, oculomotor is motor, trochlear is motor, trigeminal is both, and abducens is motor, facial is both, vestibulocochlear is sensory, glossopharyngeal is both, vagus is both, accessory is motor, and hypoglossal is motor. So from this diagram, how many cranial nerves are sensory, how many are motor, and how many are mixed? So we're going to count together. Let's start with the sensory. So there's 1, 2, 3. So there's only 3 sensory cranial nerves. So 3 sensory. And then how many are motor? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there is 5 cranial nerves that are purely motor. Then, how many are mixed, meaning they've got sensory and motor function? So here the mixed is represented by B, which is for both. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4. So there is 4 both or mixed nerve. So how good is your math? 3 plus 5 plus 4 gives us 12. Now, from here you can see there are cranial nerves whereby they all start with the same letter. Which ones are those? Olfactory, optic, and ocular motor. Trochlear, trigeminal. Abducens, accessory. Vestibular, cochlear, and vagus. So, let us iron out that. How do we remember now the cranial nerves that start with the same letter? So let me rub out here for enough space. So let us start with the olfactory. Let's start with the olfactory, optic, and the ocular. They all start with O. So, olfactory. What is the function of the olfactory nerve? Sense of smell. So, we're going to remember it with, let's get a different color. So we're going to remember it with nose. How many nose do we have? 1. We only have 1, and this is cranial nerve 1. And then optic is for what? Is for vision. Vision is associated with what? Eyes. How many eyes do we have? 2. And this is cranial nerve number 2. And then ocular motor. Ocular motor, the key word here is this, the word motor. So, out of these 3, ocular motor, which is the 3rd cranial nerve, is the only one that has got a motor function. So, this one is sensory, this one is sensory, and this is the only one with motor function, and we remember this by that word. Now, we are done with all the cranial nerves that start with O. So now, let us work on the cranial nerves that follow the ones that start with T. So, for us to remember this properly, let's write these words. Okay, trochlea and the trigeminal nerve. Trochlea is cranial nerve number 4. So if you remember the word 4, there's O and there's also this O in trochlea. So let's do this. Let's say this O, and here let's say this I. Okay, so trigeminal nerve, it's cranial nerve number 5, and if you were to type the letter 5, there's I here and there's I here in the letter trigeminal. So this is how you differentiate between the trochlea and the trigeminal nerve. Which one is the 4th cranial nerve? Which one is the 5th cranial nerve? Now, let's move on to the cranial nerves that starts with A. That is what? The abducens and the accessory. So, abducens for you to remember what cranial nerve, whether it's cranial nerve number 6 or this is what you remember, you put abducens. You just replace the abducens with abducens, then you know this is cranial nerve number 6. And then we are still on the A. There is A, which is cranial nerve number 11. So this one, we're going to remember it by this. Look at the full spelling of the accessory. Here, there's a pair of C, right? So there is one pair of C. If we look here, there is another pair of S. So one pair of S. And automatically, this is number 1 and 1. If you read out this, is 11. And this is cranial nerve 11. And then which ones? So now we are left with V, the vestibular cochlea and the vagus, because both of these two, they start with V. So the vestibular, how do we remember vestibular cochlea? So what is its function? It deals with the ear. Not only the ear, but also equilibrium. Equilibrium. Now, both of this spelling, ear and equilibrium, they both start with E. Okay, let me just write it a little bit closer to this side, not to take a lot of space. So, is the ear, also equilibrium, and this is cranial nerve number 8. How do we spell 8? It starts with E. So this is cranial nerve number 8. And then the vagus, how would we know that now that we are dealing with the vagus nerve, which is vagus nerve number 10. So the vagus nerve is the longest nerve out of all the 12 cranial nerves that can extend to the thorax into the abdomen. So the vagus nerve can extend into the thorax, and the tummy we are referring to the abdominal tummy, and TT, this is vagus nerve, and it's cranial nerve number 10. So this is how we spell 10. It also starts with T. And yes, so all the cranial nerves that start with the same letter, now we have addressed them. We now will remember, we will now know how to remember them. So what did we do? We learned that there is 12 cranial nerves, and then you have to know them according to their numerical order, and you have to know whether they are sensory, motor, or mixed, which is both, which is represented as B in that mnemonic. And we also went through the cranial nerves that starts with the same letter, so that we know how to remember and differentiate those cranial nerves. If you have any question, let's talk in the comment section. Come with me into the next video, where I will be discussing the in-depth functions of the cranial nerves, and also I'll be talking about the unique characteristics in the individual cranial nerves. See you in the next video.